in that southwesterly airflow. Valleys in around -2 to +4. Now, right across today, that sunshine hanging on with us, so really good news for most areas, albeit a couple of wintry showers pulling in through parts of Western Connacht, Western Ulster towards the back end of the day. That cloud thickening to the southwest as well, producing some rain. So as we slip across into tonight, a lot of problems kicking in terms of those southwestern showers. They'll track northeastwards across the country. Bearing in mind, some of those will be on the heavy and persistent side. Now, it will be preceded by hail, sleet and snow through parts of Ulster, but a really wet one tonight, carrying through then into your Tuesday morning overnight lows there, back to about 1 to 6 degrees. So that's your weather for now. We'll catch you again live here from Maynooth at 8:30.
For first-time drivers, young drivers, returning drivers, if you've had an open claim or have had too many penalty points.
The quote devil's always got one hell of a quote.
Time to give you another look at today's paper, starting with the Irish Times. Ministers to consider intensifying checks on people quarantining after travelling. Ministers will today examine whether to intensify checks on people quarantining at home after travel, with fines under consideration for those found not to be complying with stay-at-home obligations.
The Examiner leads with that. Also, their headline, highly likely travellers interstate will face tougher rules. Revealed the jobless black spots crippled by coronavirus. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. New figures reveal that in some counties, more than 40% of the workforce is on state income supports. Ryanair left me in tears over tests, the top story on the Daily Mail. It reports that a senior hospital medic was turned away from a Ryanair flight here when the airline refused to accept his negative COVID-19 PCR test by Britain's NHS. The Mirror goes with from bed to worse. 8 hospitals in Ireland were close to breaking point yesterday after they hit full capacity in intensive care. And the Star leads with the thin flu line. The paper reporting on under-pressure guard units who endured a wild weekend with officers forced to fire warning shots at one COVID checkpoint. Now, do you have any concerns about taking the COVID vaccine? Then we want to hear from you. On Wednesday's show, we are going to be joined by Dr. Lorraine Nolan, a leading authority on the vaccine and the head of the agency that regulates all drugs used in Ireland. Yes, Dr. Nolan will address any concerns you might have around the vaccine. So to get in touch, all you have to do is record a short video asking your question and WhatsApp us to 0896 111 111, or you can email us at irelandaim@virginmedia.ie. I'd be interested to see what people's concerns are. I know for me, it would be, well, not now, I'm done with my 3, but if I was trying for another baby, I know it says it's not going to affect fertility, or if you're breastfeeding, you just had a baby, all that area I think is going to be cause for concern. Because we have so many, there's Moderna, there's AstraZeneca, well, hopefully going to have AstraZeneca, you have Pfizer. So is there a difference between the 3? How do you decide which one you get, or is it just take what you're given? And also when we're going to get it. I think people would love to know the timeline just so they can have something to look forward to. Yeah, very interesting. So do get your questions in for Dr. Nolan. Absolutely. But first, after the break, award-winning author Sheila Flanagan is going to join us for a chat about her experience of lockdown.
You're not getting this back.
What is it? It's the Lenore Dream Team. Just condition as usual, boost with the matching scent, and go.
It's just too good.
Whatever you're made of, there's a Skoda made for you. Skoda, made for Ireland.
It's colourless, it's odorless, it's hard to detect. So carbon monoxide deserves your respect. It can kill you stone dead in just 3 minutes flat. And if you don't believe me, ask me dear Uncle Pat. Thanking you. Coal, turf, oil, gas, even wood, any fuel can harm. So get yourself a carbon monoxide alarm, or you might just wake up dead.
At Tesco, we know how important saving is to you. That's why we've created Value with You in mind. We've brought together everyday favourites, and to make shopping great value even easier, we've put a red bubble beside each and every one. For great value this dinner time, shop the Redbubble ingredients for spaghetti bolognese and serve a family of 4 for less than €5. Tesco. Every little helps.
Bam bam, mon ça se place, j'ai sur mon lit à bouffer sa langue en buvant trop mon whisky. Quant à moi, peu dormi, vie débris, mais j'ai dû dormir dans la gouttière où j'ai eu un flash. En 4 couleurs, ça plane pour moi, ça plane pour moi.
Whatever you do, we do breakfast. Kellogg's.
No surface is too small or big for viruses and bacteria to hide. But Domestos has proven to kill them all, quickly breaking the chain of infection. Domestos Spray. Unstoppable.
We could use an abstract dance routine to romance our coffee.
But we don't. We do use freshly ground Arabica beans and Irish milk in our €2 lattes. McCafe. Great tasting coffee. Simple.
No matter what you use to fight a cold. You could add Vicks Vapor Rub to help relieve your blocked nose, sore throat, congestion and cough due to cold. To help you sleep like a baby. Vicks Vapor Rub.
We put new Fairy with lift action to the test, and the results speak for themselves. No mess, no grease, no fuss. New Formula Fairy, shaking up the washing up.
Welcome back. Now, with over 20 books to her name and 10 million copies sold, our next guest is truly one of Ireland's best-loved authors. And with a new release on the way for summer, nothing can keep Sheila Flanagan from her writing, not even a global pandemic.
Yeah, Sheila joins us now via Skype to tell us all about how she has been managing during lockdown, from online deliveries and daily walks to missing her badminton and, of course, her book tours. Good morning, Sheila. So you wrote your latest book in lockdown. What was that experience like for you?
Well, it was very different, I have to say. You know, there's part of a writer that obviously you're alone, you're solitary, you're happy to be alone. And before lockdown, I used to give out about the fact that I wasn't, that, you know, people would interrupt me or that I had to be somewhere or do things. And then in lockdown, that all stopped. And, you know, I was allegedly living the writer dream of being alone and not being interrupted, and I hated it.
Right.
I realised that actually for me, going out and meeting people, not so much even meeting people, but seeing people, bumping into people, and listening to people's conversations in cafes and things, that kind of all inspired me. And it was kind of really hard to feel so cut off.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that's a huge thing. We hear a lot about people, writers sitting on trains, sitting in cafes and getting inspiration for different stories and their characters. But so many people at the minute are having to work from home and they're finding it really hard. But as an author, this is something that you're used to. Is it funny? I mean, what tips do you have to try and keep people motivated?
Well, you know, it was funny because when everybody started talking about working from home and how difficult it was working from home, I kind of laughed because, you know, when you work from home, people think that you do nothing. That used to be the way, you know, it was, oh yeah, you're working from home. And I would get, this is what I'm talking about, I would get calls at all sorts of odd times during the day and somebody would say, oh, I hope I haven't interrupted you, but do you mind doing this? And of course, once you're interrupted, you're out of the flow. And now suddenly you're hearing everybody saying, I'm at home, I'm working. Yes, I might be in my pajamas or whatever, but I'm working. But my actual tip myself, I always, when I sit down to write, I don't do it in my pajamas. I get dressed. And I have a separate room in the house. I'm lucky to have a separate room in the house to be able to work. And that kind of manages to draw a dividing line between your home life and your work life. And I realised, because I know people like my nephew are living in an apartment and they can't make that real split, that I think that is difficult for people, and you have to try somehow to balance the working side of things and the home side of things.
Do you force yourself to work certain hours? Is it that routine?
Yeah, I'm absolutely useless at that. I do try to do it. And you see, I'm lucky again, unlike other people working from home, in that I can entirely set my own timetable. But I do try, I think you do have to kind of put some sort of routine on yourself. And so I do try, and I go into my office room and I do a few admin things. And while I'm doing that, I'm trying to think of what I'm going to be writing during the day. And you do have to make yourself work a certain amount. You do have to do a certain amount of time, because the book won't write itself, sadly.
And in terms of home life and juggling your writing, you're also looking after your mum, who's 89, and you're in the Daily Mail today talking about her carer's experience of getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Can you tell me exactly what happened with your mum's carer?
Well, I mean, I'm sure it was just one of these things that happened, but she got a call to come for a vaccine at a particular time, and when she arrived there were a lot of people had been called for exactly the same time. So it was a bit confused and not well organised, and then they were sent home because they'd run out of vaccines.
Wow.
And so she was quite upset, and my mum was upset, and everybody was. So I very much feel that we do need. You were talking about it earlier, Tommy. We do need a bit more clarity about who's getting vaccines and when they're getting them and how that's working out.
And was it a case that it was one of these pop-up centres and there was going to be leftover vaccines, and that's why it was a late call to your mum's carer?
Oh, I don't think so. But I mean, that part I'm not sure. I just know that, when she was at my mum's and she got the call to go, and she was given a time. Like, she didn't have to go straight away. But obviously it wasn't as well organised as it should have been.
And just fueling the anxiety that everyone is feeling at the moment as well, which can't be easy for your mum either.
Yeah, I think that's the problem at the moment, and during lockdown we are all anxious, no matter how much we try to be living our lives and trying not to let anxiety come in. I think it does come in, and I think we all need a certain amount of clarity. And if we knew what was happening, and I think this is why this lockdown is harder than the first lockdown for a lot of people, because in the first lockdown we thought there was, we're flattening the curve, we'd have cases at a certain level, and that would be our end game, and we'd carry on. And now we just keep being thrown back into, seeing cases spike up and going into a lockdown and, coming out of it and going back into it. If we thought that there was a kind of a layout for the vaccine and for things like that, I think people would feel that there was an end game that they were looking at.
Absolutely. Listen, that's something that we all are looking forward to. Hopefully we're going to hear that a bit of a timeline very soon. Let's move on to how you're finding lockdown. And you're obviously you're doing your 29th book, which is incredible. But you do a lot of reading yourself. Is that something that you found that helps pass the time, keeps your mind active? Well,
there's a quote that I talk about from time to time, which is about reading gives you somewhere to go when you have to stay where you are. And that's the thing. I like traveling. I like being in different places. I like meeting different people, and you can't do that at the moment. So with a slight hiatus that I had in the middle when we went into the second lockdown, reading has been an absolute boon to me. I mean, I'm a big reader anyway, but I've been reading, I think I've been reading a big eclectic range of books, and they just take you different places.
And Sheila, do you think you'd ever write about this pandemic? Do you think writers soon will start tackling COVID in works of fiction?
Well, I think there will be certainly some books in which COVID will be the key factor, but it's not going to be any of my books because I kind of feel we've lived through it. Do I want to live through it again in a book? I don't think so. So I've been reading books that are just take me into different places. I've read a lot of crime, and I kind of think that crime and COVID actually might work better together. But I've also read, a lot of feel-good fiction, as we call it, and that's where I want to be right now.
Yeah, you said that you have such a broad range of stuff that you love to read at the minute. You're, of course, one of Ireland's most loved authors. Are there any authors out there at the minute that you're really enjoying reading too?
Well, I've actually just finished. I'm really lucky that sometimes as an author you get proof copies, and I've just finished a book by Ciara Geraghty, who's just an Irish author, and she's an absolutely wonderful author. And her book is called Make Yourself at Home, which I think is a good title for the times that are in it, and it's about somebody coming back to her family home, and she's had a difficult relationship with her mum, and so it's a book for the times. Maybe I think that's out next month. And I've also been reading the prison letters of Countess Markovic, because I always found she was a really, really interesting woman. Also interesting with her letters, because they're really, really from the heart letters. She was imprisoned during the time of the flu epidemic. And in one of her letters to her sister, Eva Gore Booth, she says, "I'm safe in here in prison, and you guys take care out there."
Yeah, parallels to nowadays, isn't there? Oh my God, back to 1918. In terms of your newest book, it's 3 weddings and a proposal. A little bit of escapism and a little bit of romance in this for readers, I presume, Sheila.
Yes, I mean, it does sound incredibly romantic with 3 weddings as a title. And of course, it's not entirely, because it's about a woman who doesn't want to get married at all. But I think, like all of my books, you know, it's a family story. My character in this is a girl called Delphine, and she's single, lives alone, and is extremely happy with her life. But because she's not married and because she doesn't have her own family, her family kind of think she's a bit of a failure, you know, that there's something missing, and she doesn't think so. So it's one of those. It's a story about, you know, our expectations about women and expectations about ourselves and what we really want in our lives. And you know, I do take my characters away. There's a slight mention of COVID, so it's a post-COVID book, but when we're in a better place. So I do take her away. She goes to Mallorca at one point, and it's beautiful. And I actually loved writing that.